What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Pretty exciting today. We're going to start on the T90 transmission teardown on the 59 CJ5. I separated the transfer case and the bell housing from this, so we got just a bare transmission. I'll go over the removal process when we go to install it, because I can't see the camera, so hopefully the angle's good. But anyway, you got your main shaft here that the output gear for the transfer case goes on. So before you remove it, you got to take that off, and the transfer case will pull off. And then also, if you put the shift tower in gear, that'll hold the forks, and I'll show you here in a second why, because this bearing got stuck and it pulled the whole main shaft out, which is no big deal. It had to come out anyway. So we got a big needle bearing mess in here right now, but it had to get taken apart anyway. So all right, let's get this top cover off, and you can see the shape it's in. As you can see, it's not too bad. It got a little dirty from the pressure washing. I pressure washed it yesterday, but you can see everything just fell apart because this bearing got stuck, which is no big deal. We'll just separate the shift tower for now. I'll get that out of the way. We're going to go ahead and remove the throw out bearing from the front, and then also the retaining cap. There you go. I'm trying to do it to where you can see. So it's going to be 3 Allen bolts. Yeah, I haven't gotten a longer tripod yet, so I got this mounted up on my vehicle mount up on the top of this workbench here. So hopefully it comes out okay. And sorry for the extra noise. The neighbors are deciding to run their four-wheelers and dirt bikes, so hopefully it doesn't get in the way too much. All right. So here's our retainer. Got the old gasket. And here's our front shaft and bearing with the old felt washer. That's no longer holding anything in. You can see it right here. That's not a good sign. The snap ring expanded and came right off the main shaft here, which is okay. We got a new one anyway. All right, so to get all the main shaft out and everything, hopefully this comes out on the camera, but you got your pretty much your pin retainer. This holds your reverse gear and then also your idler gear. So we're just going to tap that plate out, and that's what's retaining this plate here. It's kind of the bearing sits in, the output bearing sits in there, and it acts as kind of a stop for the gear set. You can go ahead and tap that out. All right, so here's the plate, and now we're just going to take our main shaft, and we'll probably just have to use, well, it's a little persuasion to get the plate off. There we go. So like I said, this bearing was stuck on here. So here's our second and third gear shift your synchro collar, and there we go. So this is all going to get breaking down into a sub-assembly. We're just doing a quick teardown, and then there's going to be multiple series in this because I'm going to clean everything up and further explain. We're just doing a quick teardown so I can get it cleaned up. So alright, the next thing, we're going to go ahead and remove our input shaft. As you can see, we got some damage to the synchronizer ring here. The teeth are in surprisingly good shape, but the actual surface of it is pretty mangled. And then your teeth for your synchro, and then your actual input shaft. This is third gear, I believe. I have to check in the book. Alright, so now that's out, we got some thrust washers. I need to go where they came from. We'll pop out our input shaft bearing. This has a snap ring, only goes in one way. So next is going to be the main shaft. So this is going to have your pin, and then there's going to be a lot of needle bearings. I don't exactly know how many. I think it's close to 100 little needle bearings stacked in there, and the shaft goes through. It's kind of it's going to be fun to put the new one in. So that shaft, we're going to take a brass drift. Actually, before that, we got to take the oil slinger off. I don't know. Hopefully, you can see it. But that's going to be two Allen bolts on the front here. Oh yeah, they're going to be pretty tight. Let me get a ratchet. All right, so I broke them loose off camera. See, we had some corrosion buildup in here. So that flinger is just gonna come up and around. All right, so now we're gonna get our main gear shaft out. Alright, so before we can take the main shaft out, we got to take the reverse gear out. You're going to drive the pin for it right here. It's going to be driven out. Here's our pin. And here's our reverse gear. So there's no bearing in this, it's just a brass bushing. And then our shaft should come out. There we go. Or gear, I should say, not shaft. Oops. Don't forget your got a back thrust washer, and then you're going to have two in the front. We'll go over that more in the reassembly. Here we go. So you can see all those needle bearings down in there. They're currently falling out. So reassembly, this is real and kind of a real pain, you know, just because of these damn needle bearings. But you know, it gives you a lot more surface area in that main gear. So right, there you have it. It's that it's that quick to get it down to a bare case, so I still got a lot of cleaning left to do on it. Got a lot of oil sludge in it. And then just take the transmission mount off, and next time you see this case, it'll be brand new looking. So real quick, we'll just go over our parts. I've been meaning for years to get a pretty much like a transmission teardown table, you know, like a nice metal workbench with a drain in the middle, and I'm on my like 4th transmission on the same area of the workbench, along with like my 4th transfer case, so I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. But anyway, here, this is our main shaft that the needle bearings rotate on our main shaft here, on our main gear. This is also referred to as a cluster gear. I don't know why I keep calling it a shaft. It's been a long day. And here we have our 2nd and 3rd gear synchronizer. This is 2nd gear here, and this is your 1st and reverse sliding gear. So you're gonna have a straight cut. So you pretty much got a straight cut gear. There we go, like this. So this is gonna be on the bottom, that on the top, and then your gear, your 1st and reverse slide back and forth, and then your 2nd slides, your 2nd and 3rd. Ring will slide back for 2nd and then up for 3rd to contact the main shaft here. And that's pretty much it. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and try to degrease these real quick, and we'll go ahead and fully disassemble it. Alright, hopefully this angle isn't too bad. I gotta do all kinds of goofy angles. But here we got the sliding shaft here, and we have some pretty significant damage to the 2nd and 3rd gear synchro. So we got a broken spring. This holds in the synchro dogs, and then we got a broken synchro dog right here. This one's broken in, it looks like 3 pieces, one half and then on the edge here. And then we also got a thunderstorm rolling in, so hopefully it's not too loud. But anyway, so to remove this whole sliding gear, this whole synchronizer, we're just going to remove this big snap ring here. Make sure you have some heavy duty snap ring pliers, because they're a real pain to get off. Got a little bit of crud buildup and galling on it. Alright. It's not too bad. That's right. Now here's our 2nd gear synchronizer. This one's in a lot better shape than the 3rd gear. Kind of compare them. You can see this one's in pretty good shape. It's squared off still. And on this one, you can see all the gouging and then all the taper on it. So I've never seen a 3rd gear one this wore out before. Normally it's a 2nd gear. So our 2nd gear comes right off. This too just has a brass bushing inside. It's a ream fit. So we'll inside mic it, make sure it's within spec, which it should be. It's got a pretty low miles on it. And then our 1st gear, it's gonna come off on the back side, because if I remember right, there's a slight taper to the shaft here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just knock this bearing off. I'm just giving it light taps, because it's just it's just a slip fit bearing. It's just got a little bit of corrosion. There's our output bearing, and then your output bearing spacer. That's critical you don't lose this. Our bearing retaining plate, and our first slash reverse sliding gear. Now, you want to inspect this gear, because this gear is going to have a brunt of the force, because this is a non-synchronized gear, and you're always going in the first, or going into reverse. So we got a little bit of wear on the teeth on both sides. It doesn't really justify replacing it. I think this is going to be just fine to put back in. Maybe do a little bit of filing to the teeth and it'll be good to go, because parts right now, I'm having a hard time finding parts, especially gears and stuff. And luckily I peeked into the top cover of this transmission and really didn't see anything too bad. And then there's nothing to disassemble on the third gear. This is all one piece on your input shaft. And so your sliding shaft and your main shaft, this taper goes in here, and there's going to be about, I think, 9 or 10 larger roller bearings that go in there. All right, so I had a major snafu. I was in picture mode, not video mode, this whole time, so I've been talking to a dead camera the whole time and no audience. So anyway, do a quick recap of the past 15 minutes or so. Try to explain this the best I can. So there we go. Anyway, nothing's wanting to cooperate today. Anyway, all right. So to remove your shift forks, so you're just gonna slide them out of the way, out of the contact of your shift cane, and you're gonna have two nail style roll pins where you have a head on one end, it goes through, and then this other end is mushroomed. You're gonna take that mushroom out with a punch it through, get it out of the way, and then you're gonna slide your shift fork out of the way a little bit. Do the same thing to the other shift fork. Then on the front, this is the front of the transmission here, you're gonna have two plugs. These are your shift rail plugs. The back is open for the shift rails to, go back and forth and push any kind of dirt and, grease or whatever out. And then the plugs are sealed. So anyway, you're gonna drive them from the back to push, and it's gonna push the plug out. And then in this hole, you're gonna have your detent ball and also the detent spring, which I can't find. Luckily the kit comes with a new one. There it is. So that's gonna, your spring goes in here and your ball, and essentially that's just hitting these detents here, and that holds the shift rail and shift fork in place when you move the lever. So when you get to the very end, you're going to want to put a rag or something flat across this hole, because once you drive that pin through, surprisingly this spring has a lot of tension behind it, and it'll shoot that ball and spring right out, catch an eye, go halfway across the building, whatever. So that's basically what I did. hopefully, you know, that makes sense. We'll just inspect the shift rails a little real quick. So we got our second and third gear shift rail. Notice how it's smaller. And then our first and reverse. So the surfaces look good. I'll clean them up and inspect them for cracks, everything like that. Our shift cane surface looks good. And yeah, everything looks good with them. So the next pain in the ass part is getting the retaining spring out for your shift cane. So it basically coils down with a lot of tension and grooves inside the casting of the shift tower here, and you got to fish it out, and then when we go to put it in, we're gonna have to fish it back in. It's probably the most pain in the butt thing on this transmission. So that being said, the last part to remove is the shift cane. It's going to come out from the bottom. Now we got a fully disassembled T90A1, and we'll just inspect our shift cane surface. That looks good. No reason not to reuse it. Normally, you know, if you got one with a lot of wear, this will be almost gone. You'll have a lot of slop in your shifts and everything. So it's good.